The stars were on fire, but Earth didn't care. Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the massive viewing window of Haven Station, watching distant explosions light up the darkness of space. Each flash meant another ship destroyed, another crew dead, another world lost. The war had been going on for 12 years now, and it was getting worse every day. "Sir, the coalition delegation is here again," his assistant Maria said behind him. She sounded tired. They all sounded tired these days. Chen turned away from the window. "Which one this time?" "Captain Zixth of the Veltar. He's brought footage from the Kepler massacre." Chen closed his eyes for a moment. The Kepler system had housed 6 billion coalition citizens last week. Now it was empty, consumed by the enemy everyone called the Devourers. He had seen the reports. Entire planets stripped bare, their populations turned into gray dust that fed the hungry monsters from beyond the galaxy's edge. "Show him in," Chen said. "But the answer will be the same." Captain Zixith entered the room like a walking crystal sculpture. The Veltar were beautiful in their own way, their bodies made of living diamond that changed color with their emotions. Right now, Zixith glowed deep red with desperation and orange with fear. "Ambassador Chen," the alien captain spoke through his translation device, "you must help us. The Devourers have broken through our defense line at Rigel. They're moving toward the core worlds. Billions will die." Chen gestured for the alien to sit, though Veltar didn't really sit the same way humans did. "Captain, you know Earth's position. This is not our war." "How can you say that?" Zixith's crystal body flashed bright angry red. "The Devourers don't care about your neutrality. They consume everything. When they finish with us, they will come for you too." "Maybe," Chen said quietly. "But that day is not today." The captain leaned forward. "We offer you our best technology. Faster ships, stronger weapons, energy shields that can stop anything. Join the coalition and share our knowledge." "We don't want your weapons," Chen replied. "We want peace." "There can be no peace with the Devourers." Zixith stood up, his body now burning white with frustration. "They are not like us. They don't want territory or resources. They want to eat everything that lives. You cannot negotiate with hunger itself." Chen had heard this speech before, from dozens of different coalition representatives. The words were always the same, even if the speakers were different. Fear made everyone sound alike. "Earth will continue to provide medical supplies and humanitarian aid," Chen said. "But we will not send our people to die in your war." After Zixith left, Chen returned to the window. Haven Station orbited a small planet that belonged to nobody. It was the one place in the galaxy where all three sides of the war could meet safely. The coalition came here to beg for help. The hegemony came here to threaten the Devourers. Well, the Devourers didn't talk to anyone, they just ate. "Transmission coming in from Earth," Maria announced. "It's Admiral Rodriguez." The hologram of Admiral Sarah Rodriguez appeared in front of Chen's desk. She looked as tired as everyone else, but her eyes were still sharp. Rodriguez commanded Earth's small but growing space fleet. She was also Chen's oldest friend. "How did the meeting go?" she asked. "Same as always. They want us to fight, we say no, they leave angry." Rodriguez nodded. "The hegemony sent another threat today. They say if we don't pick a side soon, they'll pick for us." Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "General Thok says that every month. If the hegemony could actually reach Earth, they would have invaded us years ago." "Maybe. But they're getting desperate too. My scouts report that the Devourers hit 3 more hegemony worlds this week. The tough guys with their big warships are losing just as badly as everyone else." Chen sat down at his desk. "What do you think, Sarah? Are we making the right choice?" "I think we're making the only choice we can," Rodriguez said. "Earth has barely 500 warships. The coalition has 50,000. The hegemony has 100,000. If they can't stop the Devourers, what could we do? But we're learning, aren't we?" Rodriguez smiled for the first time in the conversation. "Oh yes, we're learning everything. Every battle, every tactic, every mistake. My people have recorded every engagement for the past 5 years. We know how all three sides fight. We know their strengths and weaknesses. And what have we learned? That they're all fighting the wrong war, Rodriguez said. The coalition fights defensively, trying to protect what they have. The hegemony fights aggressively, trying to smash through everything. Neither strategy works against an enemy that just wants to consume everything. Chen thought about this. What about the Devourers? What's their weakness? That's the interesting part, Rodriguez said. They're not really alive, not the way we understand it. They're more like hungry ghosts. They absorb the life force of other beings to feed themselves, but they're also a hive mind. They think as one, act as one. That sounds like a strength, not a weakness. Maybe. Or maybe it means they can't adapt the way individual minds can. Every Devourer ship we've seen follows the same patterns, uses the same tactics. They're predictable. Chen looked out the window again. A new battle was starting near the Centauri Nebula. Green coalition energy beams crossed with red hegemony plasma bolts, while black Devourer ships moved through the chaos like sharks through bloody water. Keep watching, Chen told his old friend. Keep learning. Someday we might need everything we've observed. You think they'll come for Earth eventually? I think hungry things are never satisfied, Chen said. They'll eat the coalition, then the hegemony, and then they'll look around for the next meal. After Rodriguez signed off, Chen walked through Haven Station's diplomatic quarter. Representatives from a dozen different species filled the corridors, all trying to build alliances, make deals, find some way to survive the war that was consuming their galaxy. None of them paid much attention to the human ambassador. Earth was too small, too weak, too unimportant to matter in galactic politics. That was exactly how Chen wanted it. In his private quarters, Chen opened a secure communication channel to Earth. President Williams appeared on the screen, looking older than she had just 6 months ago. Status report, Ambassador? The war is spreading, Chen said. The Devourers took the Vega system yesterday. The coalition is falling back toward the core worlds. The hegemony is trying to make a stand at Wolf 359, but my sources say they won't hold for long. How much time do we have? Chen considered the question carefully. If current trends continue, the coalition will collapse within 2 years. The hegemony might last another year after that. Then they come for us. Yes, ma'am. President Williams was quiet for a long moment. Keep doing what you're doing, Ambassador. Stay neutral, stay invisible, and keep learning. When the time comes, we'll be ready. Chen hoped she was right. Outside, his window, another star went dark as the Devourers fed. The galaxy was dying, piece by piece, world by world, but Earth was still watching, still learning, still preparing for the day when neutrality would no longer be an option. The emergency alarm screamed through the Mars Defense Station at 3 a.m. local time. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez rolled out of her bunk and into her uniform in one smooth motion. She had been expecting this call for months. Report. She barked into her communicator as she ran toward the command center. Multiple ships approaching from the Proxima jump point. Came the reply from Lieutenant Torres. They're not responding to identification requests. Rodriguez reached the command center and looked at the main display. 12 ships were limping toward Mars, their hulls scorched and broken. She recognized the design immediately. Coalition vessels, she announced to the room. Veltar crystal ships and 3 Centauri cruisers. Should we prepare for battle stations? Asked Commander Park. No. Look at them. They're not here to fight. They're running from something. The lead ship finally responded to their hails. The face that appeared on screen was barely recognizable as Captain Zixith. The Veltar's crystal body was cracked and dull, infected with something that pulsed black through his transparent flesh. Admiral Rodriguez. Zixith's voice was weak. Request permission to approach Earth. We carry refugees from 12 worlds. The coalition is finished. Rodriguez felt her blood run cold. Captain, you're infected with something. My medical scanners are going crazy. Devourer parasites, Zixth said simply. They inject them during battle. The parasites feed on our life force while sending information back to the hive mind. I have maybe 6 hours before they kill me. We'll get you to our medical bay immediately. No. Zixith's cracked form shook with effort. No time for that. Must tell you something, the Devourers, and they're not random. They're following something. Rodriguez leaned forward. This could be the intelligence they had been waiting for. Following what? Energy lines. Psychic energy that flows through space like rivers. We discovered it too late. The Devourers can sense these energy streams. They follow them from one strong point to another. What kind of strong points? Zixith coughed, and black liquid leaked from his crystal lips. Worlds with high psychic activity. Planets where many minds gather and create. Resonance. The bigger the population, the stronger the signal. Rodriguez thought about this. Earth has 8 billion people. Not just numbers, Zixith said. Humans are different. Your minds are chaotic, individual. Most species think in patterns. Humans think in storms. You create more psychic energy per person than any other race we know. The captain's image flickered as his ship's power systems failed. Admiral, Earth is not just another target. It's the target. All the psychic energy lines in this part of the galaxy flow toward your solar system. Rodriguez grabbed the communication console. What do you mean, all of them? Your world sits at the center of a psychic nexus. If the Devourers consume Earth, they will absorb enough energy to devour this entire galaxy. Maybe more. The transmission cut out as Captain Zixith's ship went dark. Rodriguez stared at the dead screen for a long moment, her mind racing through the implications. Get me President Williams, she ordered. Emergency channel. Then contact Ambassador Chen on Haven Station. And send a priority message to Dr. Elizabeth Chen at the Psychic Research Institute. Within an hour, the 3 most important people in human space were gathered in a virtual meeting room. President Williams looked grim. Ambassador Chen looked worried, and Dr. Elizabeth Chen looked fascinated. Run it by me again, the president said. Admiral Rodriguez repeated what Captain Zixith had told her. Earth is sitting on top of the galaxy's biggest psychic energy source. The Devourers have been working their way toward us all along. Dr. Chen spoke up from her laboratory on Luna. It makes sense, actually. We've always wondered why humans developed so many different cultures and languages. Most alien species have 1 or 2. We have thousands. Our brains are wired for individual thinking. Is that good or bad? Ambassador Chen asked from Haven Station. Both, his daughter replied. Individual thinking creates more psychic energy, but it also makes us unpredictable. Most alien minds work like computer networks. Human minds work like storms, just as the captain said. President Williams rubbed her temples. How long before the Devourers arrive? The Coalition refugee fleet is carrying survivors from the last major battle, Admiral Rodriguez said. Based on their travel time, I estimate the main Devourer force is maybe 3 weeks behind them. 3 weeks to prepare for the end of the galaxy, the president muttered. What are our options? We could run, Ambassador Chen suggested. Load the population onto colony ships and scatter across the galaxy. Run where? Admiral Rodriguez asked. If Earth is the center of the psychic network, there's nowhere to hide. The Devourers will just follow the energy lines to wherever we settle. What about fighting? President Williams asked. The Coalition and Hegemony combined couldn't stop them. We have 500 ships, they have millions. Dr. Chen had been quiet during this exchange, but now she spoke up. There might be another option. I've been studying the Devourer parasites from the refugee ship. What did you find? They're not just parasites, they're tiny pieces of the Devourer hive mind. Each parasite carries information about the host back to the collective. Admiral Rodriguez frowned. That's not good news, Elizabeth. Actually, it might be. The parasites work by connecting to the host's neural patterns, but human neural patterns are chaotic, random. The parasites can't get a clean connection. What does that mean? It means humans might be naturally resistant to Devourer infection. Our minds are too messy for their hive mind to understand. President Williams leaned forward. Could we use that somehow? Maybe. If we can't run and we can't fight conventionally, perhaps we can fight unconventionally. Ambassador Chen looked confused. What do you mean? Admiral Rodriguez was beginning to smile. Years of watching other species fight the Devourers had taught her something important. She means we fight like humans, not like aliens. Exactly, Dr. Chen said. Every species in the galaxy has tried to defeat the Devourers by being stronger, faster, or better organized. Nobody has tried being more chaotic. The president stood up. Admiral, how quickly can you recall our deep space observation fleets? 72 hours for full recall. Do it. Ambassador Chen, I want you back on Earth immediately. We're ending our neutrality. Ma'am? If we're going to die, we're going to die fighting. And if we're going to fight, we're going to fight our way. Admiral Rodriguez was already planning. 500 ships against millions seemed impossible, but humans had been facing impossible odds for their entire history. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters by adapting and improvising. Ma'am, she said to the president, I recommend we accept the coalition refugees. Their ships are damaged, but their crews know Devourer tactics. We'll need every advantage we can get. Agreed. Dr. Chen, how long do you need to develop countermeasures for the parasites? Give me 2 weeks. If I'm right about human resistance, I might be able to create a weapon that turns their own hive mind against them. President Williams looked at each of them in turn. 3 weeks ago, we were neutral observers. Today, we're the galaxy's last hope. Any questions? Ambassador Chen raised his hand. Just one. What makes us think we can succeed where everyone else failed? Admiral Rodriguez answered for all of them. Because everyone else fought like they were supposed to, we're going to fight like humans. Outside, the coalition refugee ships were being guided toward Earth's orbital stations. Behind them, somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the Devourers were coming home. Colonel Marcus Thompson had never expected to fight aliens near Jupiter. 2 weeks ago, he was training new pilots on Mars. Now he was leading humanity's first real battle against the Devourers, and everything was going wrong. Contact at 2 o'clock, his wingmen reported. 3 Devourer scout ships approaching the Europa mining station. Thompson checked his displays. The enemy ships looked like black metal spiders, all sharp angles and hungry curves. They moved in perfect formation, exactly like every other Devourer squadron he had studied in the war recordings. Blue Squadron, break formation, Thompson ordered. Remember, we're not fighting like the Coalition or Hegemony. We're fighting like humans. His 12 fighters scattered in all directions, abandoning the neat formations that every other species used in space combat. The Devourer ships hesitated, their hive mind confused by the chaotic movement. That moment of confusion was enough. Thompson rolled his fighter sideways and fired at the lead Devourer from an impossible angle. His plasma bolts punched through the enemy's hull just as Lieutenant Kim attacked from below, and Sergeant Martinez came in from above. The Devourer ship exploded, its pieces spinning away into Jupiter's gravity well. One down, Thompson announced. Remember, they expect us to be predictable, don't be. The remaining 2 Devourer ships tried to reform their attack pattern, but the human fighters refused to cooperate. Instead of engaging in the formal dance of space combat, they attacked like a pack of wolves, darting in and out, hitting and running, never staying in one place long enough for the enemy to target them properly. Within 5 minutes, all 3 Devourer ships were debris. Good work, Blue Squadron, came Admiral Rodriguez's voice from the command ship. Return to base for debriefing. Back on the Mars Defense Station, Thompson met with the other squadron leaders. The initial results were encouraging. Human fighters had engaged Devourer scouts in 6 different battles around the outer planets. They had won every single encounter. The key is unpredictability, explained Commander Sarah Kim, who led Red Squadron. The Devourers share information through their hive mind. When they fight coalition or hegemony forces, they learn from each battle and adapt. But they can't adapt to us because we never fight the same way twice. Captain Elena Vasquez, the former coalition pilot who was training human crews, nodded approvingly. Your species fights like no other we have seen. Most races develop one style of combat and perfect it. Humans seem to have 100 different styles. Admiral Rodriguez entered the briefing room, looking pleased but tired. The good news is that our tactics are working. The bad news is that these were just scouts. Long-range sensors show the main Devourer fleet approaching the asteroid belt. We estimate 40,000 ships. The room fell quiet. Humanity's entire space fleet numbered 500 ships. However, Rodriguez continued, we have some new intelligence. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, please brief us on your research. Dr. Chen appeared on the main screen from her laboratory on Luna. Behind her, Thompson could see alien refugees working alongside human scientists. The sight still seemed strange to him. We've made a breakthrough, Dr. Chen announced. The Devourer parasites that infected Captain Zixith were still active when he died. We've been studying them for the past 2 weeks. She gestured to a display showing microscopic organisms that looked like tiny black spiders. These parasites are designed to attach to alien nervous systems and drain life energy. But when we tested them on human volunteers, something interesting happened. Please tell me you didn't experiment on people, Admiral Rodriguez said. Small doses only, and with full consent, Dr. Chen replied quickly. The parasites can't properly attach to human brain tissue. Our neural patterns are too chaotic. The parasites become confused and die within hours. Captain Vasquez leaned forward. This means humans are immune? Not immune, but highly resistant. More importantly, we've discovered that the parasites carry a two-way connection to the Devourer hive mind. If we can modify them properly, Thompson began to understand. You want to use their own parasites against them. Exactly. We're developing a weapon that releases modified parasites into Devourer ships. Instead of draining life energy, these parasites will feed chaotic human thought patterns into the hive mind. Admiral Rodriguez smiled grimly. Biological warfare. Using confusion as a weapon, I like it. There's more, Dr. Chen continued. We've been working with the Veltar survivors. Their crystal bodies naturally amplify psychic energy. If we can combine human chaos with Veltar amplification, we could jam their entire communication system, Thompson finished. The plan that emerged over the next few days was unlike anything attempted in galactic warfare. Instead of meeting the Devourer fleet in direct combat, humanity would fight a guerrilla campaign using hit-and-run tactics, confusion weapons, and psychological warfare. The surviving coalition and hegemony forces were skeptical at first. General Thok, the massive hegemony commander who had escaped the fall of his homeworld, attended a strategy meeting via hologram. This plan is madness, the alien general growled. His species looked like 8-foot-tall bears made of stone. You cannot defeat the Devourers with tricks and confusion. You need overwhelming firepower. Overwhelming firepower didn't work for you, Admiral Rodriguez pointed out calmly, because we didn't have enough of it. The hegemony controlled 1,000 star systems. If we had controlled 10,000, you would have fed 10,000 star systems to the Devourers instead of 1,000, Thompson interrupted. Respectfully, General, your way failed. Let us try our way. The first test of human tactics came when the Devourer advance guard reached the asteroid belt. Instead of fortifying the mining stations, human forces abandoned them entirely, leaving only automated defense platforms loaded with Dr. Chen's confusion parasites. The Devourers swarmed over the empty stations, absorbing what little life energy remained and deploying their usual parasites to gather intelligence. But instead of information, they received chaos. Human thought patterns flooded through their hive mind like static through a radio, disrupting their coordination. While the advance guard struggled with sensory overload, human strike teams hit their supply lines. Small groups of fighters, working without any central command, attacked Devourer logistics ships throughout the outer system. Captain Maria Santos led one such strike team. Her 6 ships approached a Devourer fuel depot near Ceres, flying in a formation that would have horrified any military academy instructor. They looked like a flock of birds rather than a squadron of warships. Remember, Santos told her pilots, they're expecting us to attack the main facility. Instead, we're going for the communication relay. The Devourers had learned to ignore small targets in favor of major threats. Their mistake was assuming humans would behave logically. Santos's team destroyed the relay station, leaving 50 Devourer ships without connection to the hive mind. Isolated and confused, the Devourer ships began to make mistakes. Human forces picked them off one by one, using tactics that changed from engagement to engagement. By the end of the first week, the Devourer advance guard was in full retreat toward the main fleet. They had lost nearly half their ships to an enemy force 1/10 their size. Impossible, General Thok admitted during the next strategy meeting. How are you achieving these results? Thompson looked at the alien commander with something approaching pity. Because we're not trying to be better than them. We're trying to be different from them, Admiral Rodriguez added. Every species in the galaxy has tried to defeat the Devourers by being more organized, more powerful, or more advanced. Humans are the first species to try being more random. Dr. Chen's research was progressing rapidly. The modified parasites were proving even more effective than hoped. Instead of simply jamming Devourer communications, they were actually causing pain to the hive mind itself. Think of it like this, she explained to the assembled commanders. The Devourer collective consciousness is like a perfectly tuned orchestra. Our parasites are like a jazz band that joined the performance without sheet music. The harmony becomes chaos. The main Devourer fleet was now approaching Mars, but their formation was already showing signs of disorder. Ships moved erratically, sometimes attacking each other by mistake. Their perfect coordination was breaking down under the assault of human unpredictability. Thompson felt a strange sense of pride as he prepared his squadron for the next engagement. Humanity had spent centuries believing they were inferior to other species because they couldn't achieve perfect unity. Now that same inability was saving the galaxy. All squadrons, prepare for launch, Admiral Rodriguez announced. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for everyone who ever thought differently, acted independently, or refused to conform. As his fighter launched toward the approaching enemy fleet, Thompson smiled. The Devourers had spent millions of years consuming species that thought and acted alike. They were about to discover what happened when they tried to eat something that refused to be digested. Captain Maria Santos never expected to be sneaking through a graveyard of worlds, but here she was, leading a rescue mission into Devourer territory. Her ship, the Resilient, moved silently through the debris field that had once been the Altair system, sensors picking up life signs on the third moon, reported Lieutenant Chen, her navigation officer. Weak, but definitely there. Santos looked at the tactical display. The moon's surface was gray and lifeless, stripped of all organic matter by the Devourers months ago, but their sensors showed nearly 1,000 survivors hiding in underground bunkers. How is that possible? Asked Sergeant Williams, the Marine commander. The Devourers consumed everything here. Maybe they missed something, Santos said, though she didn't believe it herself. The Devourers never missed anything alive. The rescue team landed near the strongest life sign concentration. What they found changed everything humanity thought they knew about their enemy. Deep underground in natural caves that the Devourers had somehow overlooked, they discovered survivors from 12 different species. But these weren't ordinary refugees. They were the changed ones. "Don't shoot," called out a figure in the darkness. It stepped into their light, and Santos had to fight not to raise her weapon. The creature had once been Veltar, she could tell, but its crystal body was now shot through with veins of black material. Devourer parasite threads, but somehow different. "I am Kethvar," the changed Veltar said. "We have been waiting for someone to find us." "You're infected," Sergeant Williams stated, his weapon ready. "The parasites should have killed you weeks ago." "They tried," Kethvar replied sadly. "But something went wrong. Or perhaps something went right." Dr. Elizabeth Chen had joined the YO rescue mission specifically to study Devourer technology. She scanned Kethvar with her instruments and gasped at the readings. "The parasites are still alive," she reported. "But they're not draining his life force. They're sharing it?" Kethvar nodded slowly. "The parasites were meant to consume us and report our memories to the hive mind. But when they tried to drain us, they absorbed our memories of pain, of loss, of watching our worlds die. The parasites experienced emotions they had never felt before. What happened then?" They broke their connection to the hive mind rather than share those painful memories. Now they exist in symbiosis with us, neither fully alive nor fully consumed. Santos looked around the cave. Hundreds of survivors watched them with eyes that held depths of sorrow and strange wisdom. They were from dozens of different species, all changed by their contact with the Devourers, all somehow free. You know something, Santos realized. Something about the Devourers that no one else knows. We know what they truly are, said another voice. A creature that might once have been human stepped forward. They are not evil, Captain Santos. They are desperate. Dr. Chen was recording everything. This information could change the entire war. Desperate how? The changed human gestured to the cave walls, where strange symbols had been carved into the rock. The parasites retained memories from the hive mind before they disconnected. We have seen through their eyes. The Devourers are refugees, Captain. They fled their home dimension to escape something even worse. What could be worse than the Devourers? Absolute emptiness, Kethvar replied. Their dimension is dying. Not just their worlds or their stars, but reality itself is breaking down. They came here not by choice, but because they had nowhere else to go. Santos felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cave's temperature. But they're destroying our galaxy because they don't know how to live without consuming others. In their dying dimension, consumption was the only way to survive. They continued that pattern here because it's all they know. Dr. Chen was frantically taking notes. Are you saying they can be reasoned with? We don't know, admitted the changed human. The hive mind is vast and ancient. It might be possible to communicate with them, but they would have to want to listen. The rescue mission returned to Earth with more than survivors. They brought the first real hope of ending the war without destroying either side. Admiral Rodriguez listened to the debriefing with growing amazement. You're telling me the Devourers are basically galactic refugees with post-traumatic stress disorder? In simple terms, yes, Dr. Chen replied. They're stuck in a survival pattern that worked in their dying dimension but is destructive here. President Williams had joined the meeting via secure communication. Can we use this information somehow? Maybe, Santos said. The changed survivors want to help. They think they might be able to establish communication with individual Devourer ships, the ones that are far enough from the main hive mind to think independently. That's extremely dangerous, Admiral Rodriguez pointed out. If the Devourers learn what we know, they might also learn that not everyone in our galaxy wants to fight them, Dr. Chen interrupted. The changed survivors represent something the Devourers have never encountered before, willing symbiosis instead of forced consumption. The plan that emerged was audacious even by human standards. Instead of destroying Devourer ships, they would try to convert them. Using the changed survivors as intermediaries, human strike teams would attempt to sever individual Devourer vessels from the hive mind. The first attempt was made on a lone Devourer scout ship near Neptune. Santos led the mission personally, with Kethvar and 3 other changed survivors aboard her vessel. Remember, Kethvar warned as they approached the alien ship. The hive mind will fight to maintain control. The individual Devourer entity inside that ship may not even realize it has the option to choose freedom. The boarding action was unlike anything in Santos's experience. Instead of using weapons, her team used Dr. Chen's modified parasites to flood the Devourer ship with chaotic emotions and memories of choice, independence, and hope. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Devourer ship stopped moving, its systems flickering as the entity inside struggled with concepts it had never experienced before. It's working, reported Kethvar, whose crystal body was now glowing with complex patterns of light. The entity is questioning the hive mind's commands for the first time in its existence. But the victory was short-lived. The main Devourer fleet detected the anomaly and immediately dispatched ships to destroy the disconnected vessel. They're willing to kill their own rather than lose control, Santos realized with horror. Not kill, Kethvar corrected sadly. Consume. To the hive mind, A devourer that thinks independently is just another source of food. They barely escaped as the devourer fleet destroyed their own scout ship rather than allow it to remain free. But the mission had proven something important. Individual devourers could be separated from the collective consciousness. Over the following days, human strike teams conducted similar operations throughout the solar system. Each success was followed by swift retaliation from the main fleet, but they were learning valuable lessons. The hive mind is afraid, Dr. Chen reported during a strategy meeting. Every time we free one of their ships, the others become more defensive, more paranoid. We're not just fighting their bodies, we're fighting their worldview. General Thok, attending via hologram from his refugee fleet, was beginning to understand human tactics. You are teaching them to doubt themselves. Exactly, Admiral Rodriguez confirmed. Every species that fought the devourers tried to destroy them. We're trying to cure them. The breakthrough came when a group of freed devourer entities, now existing in symbiosis with their former parasites, contacted the human fleet directly. The communication was painful to watch, as the entities struggled to express concepts they had no words for. We remember home, one entity managed to say through the translation system. Dimension, dying, no choice but consume or fade. Ambassador Chen, who had returned from Haven Station to coordinate diplomatic efforts, leaned forward. Do you want to go home? Home, gone, but new home? Place where no need? Consume others? Santos looked at her colleagues with growing excitement. They're asking for asylum. Galactic refugees requesting sanctuary. The question is, President Williams said grimly, can we give it to them without destroying our own civilization? Dr. Chen was already working on the problem. The changed survivors proved that symbiosis is possible. Instead of consumption, we might be able to establish a relationship based on mutual benefit. What could the devourers offer us in exchange for sanctuary? Their knowledge, Kethvar replied. They have traveled between dimensions. They understand forms of energy and space that we cannot even imagine. In their original form, before desperation, turned them into consumers. They were builders and explorers. The war was changing from a battle of destruction to a race for understanding. Humanity was no longer just fighting to save the galaxy. They were fighting to save their enemies as well. But first, they had to survive the massive devourer fleet that was approaching Earth orbit, driven by a hive mind that would rather destroy everything than lose control of its component parts. The sky above Earth was black with alien ships. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, watching as the largest fleet in galactic history assembled in Earth's orbit. But for the first time in months, these weren't all enemy vessels. Coalition reinforcements jumping in from the Proxima Vector, reported Commander Park. 12,000 ships led by Admiral Zethkri. Hegemony battle fleet approaching from Galactic North, added Lieutenant Torres. General Thok's entire surviving armada, 28,000 vessels. Rodriguez smiled grimly. It had taken the threat of total galactic annihilation, but humanity had finally accomplished something impossible. They had united their former enemies against a common threat. What about the devourers, she asked. Main Hive Fleet holding position at the asteroid belt, Captain Thompson reported from his fighter squadron. 3 million ships, but their formation is showing signs of instability. That instability was humanity's greatest weapon. Over the past week, human strike teams had been systematically freeing individual devourer ships from the hive mind. Each liberation created chaos in the collective consciousness, like removing random instruments from a vast orchestra. Dr. Chen's report coming in, announced the communications officer. Dr. Elizabeth Chen appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from her laboratory on Luna. Behind her, a strange collection of beings worked together. Human scientists, Feltar crystal singers, hegemony engineers, and most remarkably, several freed devourer entities existing in symbiotic harmony with their former parasites. The dimensional gateway is ready, Dr. Chen announced. We can open a stable portal to the devourer's home dimension. Is it safe? President Williams asked from the secure bunker beneath Geneva. Define safe, Dr. Chen replied with a tired smile. The dimension is dying, but it won't kill us immediately. More importantly, it will give the devourers a choice they've never had before. Go home and face extinction or stay here and learn to live differently. Ambassador Chen Wei, now serving as coordinator between the three Allied fleets, spoke from the Coalition command ship. The freed devourer entities are willing to serve as ambassadors to the hive mind. They believe they can negotiate a peaceful solution, and if the hive mind refuses, then we fight, Admiral Rodriguez said simply. But we fight to defend, not to destroy. The plan was elegant in its complexity. Using the dimensional technology that Dr. Chen's team had developed, combined with the psychic amplification abilities of the Veltar and the raw power of hegemony weapons, they would create a gateway home for the devourers. But the gateway would only remain open if both sides agreed to peace. All fleets report ready, Commander Park announced. Rodriguez took a deep breath. This was either humanity's greatest triumph or their final mistake. Open communications to all ships, Coalition, Hegemony, and Devourer vessels. The main screen split into multiple sections, showing Admiral Zethkri of the Coalition, General Thok of the Hegemony, and most remarkably, a collective representation of the freed Devourer entities. This is Admiral Rodriguez of Earth Fleet Command, she began. For the first time in galactic history, we have representatives of every major power in one place. We're not here to fight a war, we're here to end one. The Devourer collective entity spoke through a translation system that still struggled with their alien concepts. Hive mind, approaches, will not negotiate, only consume or be consumed. Then we change the rules, Rodriguez replied. Dr. Chen, activate the gateway. Space itself seemed to tear open as the dimensional portal activated. Through the rift, they could see the Devourer's dying dimension, a realm of fading stars and crumbling reality, where nothing could live without consuming something else. The effect on the approaching Devourer fleet was immediate. Ships that had been advancing in perfect formation suddenly stopped, their crews overwhelmed by the sight of their long-lost home. Now, Rodriguez ordered. Human ships, moving in their characteristic chaotic patterns, flew directly into the Devourer formation. But instead of firing weapons, they released clouds of Dr. Chen's modified parasites, each one carrying a simple message. You have a choice. The parasites didn't attack the Devourer ships. Instead, they connected with the hive mind's communication network and flooded it with something the collective had never experienced: individual thought. Captain Maria Santos led her squadron directly toward the largest Devourer vessel, a massive ship that served as the hive mind's central node. Remember, she told her pilots, we're not trying to destroy them, we're trying to teach them. Her ships danced around the enemy vessel like moths around a flame, each pass releasing more modified parasites into the Devourer's communication system. Other human squadrons did the same throughout the fleet, supported by Coalition defensive screens and hegemony firepower. But they weren't firing at the Devourers. They were firing at the space around them, creating a light show that forced the hive mind to confront a terrible truth. They were surrounded by beings who could destroy them but chose not to. Hive mind, confused, reported the freed Devourer entity. Never encountered mercy before. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted for hours. Not because the fighting was intense, but because it took that long for millions of individual Devourer consciousnesses to process the concept of choice. One by one, Devourer ships began to break away from the main fleet. Some moved toward the dimensional gateway, choosing to return home and face extinction rather than continue consuming others. Others approached the Allied fleets, seeking the symbiotic relationships they had witnessed among the freed entities. But the core of the hive mind remained defiant. The central command ship, containing the oldest and most desperate Devourer consciousnesses, refused to acknowledge any option other than total consumption. They're preparing to ram the dimensional gateway, Captain Thompson reported from his fighter squadron. If they destroy it, the other Devourers will be trapped here permanently. All ships prepare to intercept, Rodriguez ordered. But before the Allied fleets could respond, something unexpected happened. The freed Devourer ships, those that had chosen symbiosis over consumption, moved to block their former masters. "We will not allow," spoke their collective voice. "Hive mind must choose, but choice cannot be taken from others." The confrontation between the old hive mind and the new symbiotic entities was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. It was a battle fought not with weapons but with ideas. The old consciousness insisted that consumption was survival. The new entities demonstrated that cooperation was possible. In the end, it was a single human voice that broke the deadlock. Dr. Chen's daughter, little Amy Chen, had somehow managed to access the communication system from the laboratory. Her 8-year-old voice cut through the psychic chaos like a bell. "Why don't you just try being friends?" she asked simply. The effect was instantaneous. The ancient hive mind, faced with the innocent question of a human child, suddenly understood something that had escaped it for millions of years. There were alternatives to consumption that didn't require death. Slowly, carefully, the central command ship powered down its weapons and approached the dimensional gateway. But instead of trying to destroy it, the ship stopped just at the threshold between dimensions. "We understand," came the hive mind's voice, now somehow smaller and more personal than before. "Choice is gift. We choose to learn." Some of the Devourer fleet did return home, accepting extinction rather than changing their fundamental nature. Others chose to remain in the galaxy, entering into symbiotic relationships with various species. But the largest group chose a third option. They would guard the dimensional gateway, ensuring that it remained open for those who wished to choose differently in the future. 6 months later, Ambassador Chen Wei stood once again before the viewing window of Haven Station. But now the space outside was filled with construction vessels from a dozen different species, building something that had never existed before, a truly galactic civilization. Human children played alongside young Veltar in the station's gardens, while former Devourer entities taught xenobiology classes to fascinated students of multiple species. The war had ended not with victory or defeat, but with understanding. Status report, President Williams requested during their regular meeting. "Sorry, integration is proceeding better than expected," Chen replied. "The former Devourer entities have contributed technology that's revolutionizing medicine, energy production, and dimensional physics. In exchange, they're learning what it means to exist as individuals rather than a collective. Any problems?" "The usual growing pains. Some species are having trouble adjusting to the idea that their former enemies are now neighbors. But the younger generation is adapting quickly." Admiral Rodriguez, now serving as commander of the Unified Galactic Defense Fleet, joined the conversation from her flagship. "We've established monitoring stations at 12-dimensional rifts. If any new threats emerge from other realities, we'll be ready for them. More importantly," added Dr. Chen from her new research facility on Europa, "we'll be ready to offer them choices instead of just resistance." Chen smiled as he watched a group of children, human, Veltar, hegemony, and even young Devourer entities, working together on a science project.